Hello and welcome everyone again to the Tuesday Night Smite podcast, the show where we pretend to know stuff. Because that's something you need to know, we don't actually know stuff. Except that we don't know stuff. Anyway, I'm the Robbie Dog, I'm here today with Sabo, as always. Today's going to be episode, is it 13? I thought it was 14. Not entirely sure. It's episode 14, yeah. And yeah, today there's not a lot of topics to handle because it's now the real off season, right? We don't actually have anything going on, and we haven't had anything going on the entire week as far as actual Smite Esports is concerned. And so due to that, the thing we're going to talk about is just about the roster changes that have happened in the last week, because there were quite a lot of them as well. So we actually do have some content still. And yeah, that's basically all we're going to touch on. Two smaller topics as well. We're going to get to those. I'm not going to mention them right now. You're going to have to stick around if you want to hear about them. So yeah. Sabo, what roster changes happened?
Well, we're going to start with the one that was announced the earliest. It was maybe a couple hours after we got done recording last week.
Yeah, that always happened though, at that time.
That's our luck. But it's actually United finding their mid laner, and it's surprising to everybody. It actually turned out to be Veneno and not the best.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were expecting the best, because he's just, if you look at it from a fairly objective standpoint, he is pretty much the best option available, just in terms of raw skill. So he would have been probably the obvious choice to most people looking in on it, and I'm not sure why United went with Veneno instead of Best, but they probably held tryouts and somehow determined that Veneno would be a better option. So
see, I don't know if it came down to who looked better option. It was who fit the team better, and Polar Bear Mike said it in his tweet after they announced Veneno was joining the team, that he got along with everybody on the roster and he fit in well with the roster, which was not easy to do with this current roster as it's shaped up. We know from just rumors around the league that Benji and Polar Bear Mike aren't the easiest people to play with. Panda Cat's hot or cold depending on I don't know what day of the week it is or what kind of mood he's in on that particular day. And then Bariziel, rumor has it that Bariziel is just just a big joker, and it's the team dynamic that I think is why they picked up the Veneno and not the best. Because if you're going with just the better player, then conventional wisdom says it's the best. We've seen him in the league for since season 0, really, and Veneno we've only seen one split from in the league, and that was with Allegiance last year or last fall. So I would say this is more down to the team being feeling comfortable with Veneno over the best. I do, however, think that this is a move for season 5 and not for the fall of season 4.
Well, what I just think is that this plays a role, like Synergy as a whole plays a role in who is the best player for your team specifically. And I think if they held tryouts with both of them, with Best and Veneno, and with other free agent mids that are available, then they looked at Synergy already, right? Because you can already loosely determine whether a player's going to fit into your team just from a playstyle point of view and from a just purely behavior point of view by playing with him for a couple of games, probably. And I'm very certain that United did this. I just wonder if it is overall still the best choice, because issues with sort of team chemistry can to a certain extent be worked around if you're working towards a bigger goal, right? And I think within that bigger goal, within a system where they're doing that, they could have found more success with Best than they could have that they will probably find with Veneno, unless he improves quite a lot individually.
Well, that brings me back to my point where I don't think this is a move for the fall of season 4. I think this is very much a move for the season 5 and beyond. Because if you're just looking for what's the better option for season 4 and trying to make a run at Worlds, then you go with best. But if you want any kind of long term sustainability as far as being actually good in the league, you bring in somebody that fits well with the team and doesn't clash on a personality level with anybody on the team. And so, Veneno, he was the mid for Mighty Storm before they went into relegations. He has experience to a certain level in the mid role, and he has experience in just like the SPL, the grind of the SPL. Practicing every week, making showing up for games on time. So he's been through that already, and so it's just him joining this team as their mid. I see this, like I said, being more for next season and making sure that not only do they finish in the top 6 this split, but have a good look, or Harris gives them a good look when they're choosing teams, sponsors for next season. Because if in all realistic expectations, if you're looking at the 12 teams that are going, or the 12 sponsors that are going to make the Pro League next year, there's only one given, and to me, that's Dignitas. Despite how good their team is right now, Dignitas, the organization, has been with Smite since the very beginning, right? I mean, season 0, Zapman, Lassus, the best. They were all on that Dignitas team. So the organization's been with Smite forever, and so that's the only one I think is going to have almost a guaranteed spot next year. Now, E United has been, they changed their name, but they were the Enemy, and Enemy has been around for a while with Smite as well. So, you think they might have a leg up as going into it, but they just, they want to be able to make a good impression. And can they make it to Worlds with this roster? I do believe that Panicat and Benji and Verizio are all good enough to make it, to help this team make the Worlds. It's just right now they feel like Veneno would be a better fit going forward in the long term instead of the best.
See what I'm wondering then is, if you are looking towards season 5, then why do you make this move now, right? Because if you're going into season 5, your biggest goal is again going to be to make it to Worlds and to win Worlds overall. And the 2 splits that you have before the fall in season 5 and that you had this season are the ones where I think you can really try to create a team that works, that is based on synergy, and try to improve as a whole, as a team. When I look at the fall split, I look at it as the split where you have to have a team together, or where you either have a team together that already works, which most of the EU rosters do, or where you are making changes that give you the highest potential team available. And I don't think Veneno belongs in that team, right? Because if the thing I'm wondering myself is, if you're looking towards season 5, but Veneno really have not been available at the start of season 5 to pick him up going into the spring, in case the entire split with best doesn't work out. Because you have to remember, especially because you have to remember that we're only going to have 6 NASPL teams going into season 5.
Well, picking up Veneno now and compared to maybe waiting till the spring of season 5, you get a good, like, a leg up on the rest of the league. because you already have that split with the new mid laner. And it's not like Best is a free agent right now, but it's not like NA is a talent ground for actually good mids, right? That is one of the two positions where we have fallen drastically behind our EU counterpart is mid and jungle. And so, getting somebody who can grow with your team is not, maybe not stuck in certain ways of playing the game, like maybe the Best is because he's been playing for so long, and just getting somebody who can, like I said, mesh well with your team, but also learn the way that you want them to learn and grow as a unit. It could be that maybe this doesn't work out for the fall, but it could, going into season 5, it could benefit them in the spring and the summer of next season. And the EU teams have been together for a long time, Energy and Obey. Maybe this is just let's get our new mid lane earlier, and let's try to grow together, and we'll see where we're at the end of the split. But like I said, they're still one of the top 5 teams in NA for me. So that's 5 team. Being top 5 should be good enough to get you into super regionals, and after that, let your gameplay decide where you're going.
Yeah. I think they still have the potential to be one of the top 5, because from what we've seen from the other teams, right? We have a couple of question marks behind other NA teams because they've also made roster changes, and they've not made necessarily the roster changes that have been too impressive overall. And I see, when I look at NA, I see a couple of teams that this United roster should be able to compete with and to beat, and they might be able to squeeze into a top 4 position. But it's all a bit questionable, right? Because NA's been so inconsistent, and because so many teams have made quite drastic changes, or at least changes that we're expecting to be quite drastic. So it's going to be a bit hard to tell how specifically the different teams are going to look going into the fall. But overall, I'm just not sure if it's the ballsiest move they could have done, right? It seems very safe if they're going for synergy. Going for synergy overall is always a more safe move, in my opinion. And it could hurt their chances a bit to go to Worlds, if you ask me. Super regionals should still be in their grasp, just because they are, as you said, they are mechanically just good enough. A lot of them, guys like Verizial, guys like Benji, guys like Pandacat, those people can manage to get to super regionals, even if Veneno doesn't end up being the best possible solution for mid. And even if he is, or even if he isn't, as of right now, Best is still a free agent, right? So there's still the potential that you could pick him up later in the split if no one else takes him. But yeah, I'm just not sure. Yeah, go ahead.
I see it kind of like this. It's easier to teach somebody to be a part of your team than it is to change their personality to fit your team. So if the personality already fits the team, you can Veneno can learn how to play with your team. The personality thing is key to this for me, because it has to be like I said, it's a lot easier to teach somebody how to play the game and how to get better at the game than it is to change their personality. And so Veneno joining this team based off what Polar Bear Mike says, and that he does fit with the team better than Best did. Or he didn't actually name the Best, but Best being the only major free agent in the mid lane, we're just assuming that he was an option there. But Veneno's personality fit better with this current E United team, and that's a move more for the future, looking beyond season 4, but beyond the Worlds, and into season 5, and then into the future of Smite. And so,
yeah,
it should be a smart move.
Yeah. Well, my point just is, if they're looking towards season 5, I think they're more looking towards the start or the middle of season 5, which I don't think is a place you should be looking in the middle of seasons anyway, because they effectively do not matter. Worlds is the one thing that matters most by far, and I think you always need to have your sights aimed at Worlds, regardless of what else there is, and you need to make roster changes that are going to be best for you going into Worlds, which, as I said, for a reason I've already explained, I don't think Veneno is going to be, or has the potential to be, but yeah, we'll see, like, honestly. I just don't get the point of looking towards the middle of a season.
Well, see, I would agree with you if it wasn't for the recent changes that were announced. See, Worlds is going to get you a payday. It's going to get you a huge payday. Like, if you win Worlds, you get like $600,000 a team. I don't know. That's just the starting number. But that's one-time prize. Next season you're guaranteed a minimum salary of $30,000. That's guaranteed money. So
yeah,
that could play a huge factor in these roster changes. Teams are looking, outside of Worlds and to having a stable paycheck next season.
Yeah, but I think if you put a team together that's good enough, which I definitely think that this United roster with best would have still been, right, good enough to make top 6 at least, and to sort of guarantee their spot going into the next season. At that point, you can still pick up Veneno, and at that point, you can still earn those 30k a year with Veneno, and just try to improve that way. Because the way I see it again is, because if you have this 30k as a base salary, which should be good enough to live on in NA from what I know about your country and about Canada, then I think you set your sights even more on Worlds, because winning splits is no longer going to be that important financially, and winning lands in between is no longer going to be that important financially. But yeah, it's just my opinion.
Well, I understand your point, but you also said that winning splits and winning lands won't be as important financially. You're right. It also pertains to this split. Yes, winning Worlds is going to be huge financially for you now, but getting that 30k guaranteed, not winnings, not from winning the LAN or winning the split, guaranteed. Every player gets 30k. You want that guaranteed money, and after that, winning lands, winning these tournaments, to get extra money on top of that becomes important. Right now, it's all about getting to season 5, getting that spot in season 5.
Yeah, but do you think they would be under threat of not making 6th place in the SPL if they picked up best and they didn't work well in terms of synergy?
In NA?
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of do.
Oh.
You said it yourself. NA is jumbled up. There's no, like, we could probably put Trifecta and Space Station at the top. Despite my disagreements with Homie Faye, or my issues with Homie Faye at LAN, he's still good enough online that they're going to be top 2 with that roster. And then you got the other 5 teams outside of a Mighty Storm, which we'll get to them in a minute, but we haven't heard anything about roster changes on ALG. And yeah, they're not ALG anymore, but they haven't announced the new name yet, so I'm just going to call them ALG. LG has just found their new solo laner. Noble has just found a replacement solo laner for who they lost to LG. And then, Who else is there? Oh yeah, gatekeepers. There's gatekeepers. I mean, so you got 4 teams right there with E United battling for 5. Or like the only team in NA. I can't even think of the other team. God dang it. Hold on,
Well,
give me a second.
Noble.
I know there's one team. I said Noble already. I know there's one team I'm forgetting. Allegiance, LG, Noble, E United,
Space
Mighty
Station.
Storm. I said Space Station. That's right.
I don't think you forgot any. Like, honestly.
Yeah, but okay. With the exception of a Mighty Storm, which I don't think is going to place any higher than 8th, you got one team of those other teams are going to be left out. And we know Allegiance is hot and cold. It just where they're going, how they're going to play from week to week, and whether or not they're going to be good for an extended period of time to where they can make it above that 6th place line. But you got to assume LG and Noble and mine went blank again. What I'm saying is, E United is not guaranteed that 6th spot. Even with the best, you don't know how personality, midway through the split, personalities are going to collide or clash or whatever. We've seen it already. Envious in the spring of last year with all those huge names, Omega, Cyclone Spin, Kiki, Snoopy, they all, it's supposed to be one of the better put together teams, and the personalities didn't mesh, and we saw what happened. So we know, we have evidence of what happens if you don't fit together as a team. And who's to say the best doesn't, the best coming to this team doesn't hurt E United more than it should?
Well, I think if you look at the summer where they were close to making LAN, right? They got 4th seed, right? I think.
Yes.
And in that entire split, Chaos didn't look too impressive overall, right? Despite being touted to be one of the better mid laners in NA overall. And I think with that in mind, getting in a mid that is most likely going to be better than Chaos individually, even if he doesn't fit perfectly with the team, and even if there is going to be some time where you need to build up more synergy, a roster of the caliber of this United roster that we see should be able to make at least 6th place. Just because the other 4 players, they have the synergy and they have looked good, and I don't think it's that much of a risk as you're kind of pointing it out to be. But I can see where you're coming from, right? If you as E United as a team are scared of losing 6th place in NA, in the NASPL, then yeah, it does make sense to go with a mid who has more synergy with your roster, because it's pretty much going to guarantee you a place higher than 6th, I think. But yeah.
Well, I mean, again, you have basically 5 teams competing for 4 spots, and it's one team is going to be left out. And right now, looking at the rosters, we are assuming it's going to be Allegiance, because the Allegiance are gatekeepers, but I expect better things from the gatekeepers than I do Allegiance. But going back to my point, there's going to be 5 teams competing for 4 spots, and one team is going to be left out. If it is, we expect it to be Allegiance, but if it's not Allegiance and they actually play well enough to make it above that 6th place line, then somebody is going to be left out. And synergy based on personality, like I said, we saw what happened to Envious last year, and it might, just bringing in the best might have hurt the teams.
See, I've,
overall synergy.
See, I think the bigger issue that Envious had was more that they didn't allow themselves as a roster to really build synergy even. And I think that's what really killed this team in the spring of last year, is that they made roster changes week after week and they tried new things that it just didn't work out because they never got enough synergy from week to week to where they actually looked like a team. I think you can make any team with any type of players look better than Envy looked if you give them like a month of playing together and actually practicing together, or a couple of months, right? And I don't think it would have been the same result, especially because they would have only changed this one player, not swapped players around in different roles, etc. Just creating a mess that like Envy did in the spring then. But yeah, I think we're both kind of assessing the risk that bringing Best in would have been a bit differently. And I think that's understandable for both of us, sort of. So yeah, I think we can wrap this one topic up if you're fine with that.
I'm fine with it. I just want to clear up. I'm not saying Benenu is better than the best. I just feel like uh, his personality fits this team, and I'm just in agreement with how big a issue like personality can be on a team, and so
Yeah.
Polar Bear Mike said it best. Fit with the team better than anybody else. So that pretty much sums it up. Like, if Polar Bear Mike says he fits with the team, then that's all we can assume. That it's personality based.
Yeah, yeah. So the other side effect of this change happening, when they know joining United, obviously, is obviously that the Mighty Storm, who were expecting to have Venenu as their mate going into relegations before he actually quit the team to probably go play with United, they're lacking a mid right now because they said they were holding tryouts. I think the day after relegations, we talked about that already last week, I think. But yeah, that is the big open spot that there still is in NA right now because of the other roster changes that we're gonna talk about just in a moment. So that's the one big open slot now in the NASPL is mid for Mighty Storm. And well, what are we expecting? Is it gonna be the best?
It's either going to be the best or it's not going to be the best. I mean, like that's pretty much a given, right?
Yeah.
But the only way I see the best joining this team is if he just really wants to play the game. I've already said I don't expect them to finish above 8th. I like the roster. I like some of the players on their roster. I just don't think they have enough on the team experience-wise or to make it on, make it above that 6th place line.
Yeah. So imagine now, just imagine for a moment, a Mighty Storm get the best. They manage to sneak into 7th seed above whoever is going to be there, going into the last week where they will be playing United, currently 6th seed. The best carries both games, or carries the set. They 2-0 United, get 6th seed, United is 7th in NA, and they're out of the league for the next year.
Well, no, because there is still, in my mind just went blank. Damn you.
Yeah, it was more of a joke, by the way.
There's still the gauntlet, though.
It's the
And
gauntlet.
yes, 1 through 8's already going to be like placed in that, how they end the split, but the gauntlet is going to determine a lot about where those bottom teams are at. And if E United, I know it was a joke, but if E United does play 7th but end up winning the gauntlet and making it into super regionals, and then all of a sudden they're not 7th, they're 5th. So
Yeah. What if they don't? What if they
Well-
get 7th in the gauntlet?
well, there's enough talent on this roster that even if they don't make it to 7th, a lot of them are going to be picked up by somebody else next season. We've already said Benji's probably the best solo laner in North America, if not one of the best in the world. And who knows if LG's new solo laner doesn't play up to where they expect him to play up, and Benji's a free agent next season. Well, there's a fit right there. But
Yeah.
jokes aside, though, this is not a caliber team that I expect to make it super regionals, let alone worlds. And if you're a player with the talent of best, I think the only reason you join this team is to keep playing the game. Which I don't know if he's at that point. We saw how he seemed to be enjoying himself during the Energy Invitational and how he liked that situation and being on a team that is a winning caliber team and is ready to win right now. Mighty Storm is not ready to win right now, and all that love and enjoyment he found at the Energy Invitational might get hurt by playing with a team like a Mighty Storm, who's, like I said, not ready to do anything right now.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if it would be the worst choice over not playing the split or playing in the Challenger Cup. Just because you're still gonna be matched up against the SPL teams, which is obviously a lot better competition than you'll be facing in the Challenger Series or just in your random ranked games. So I think it would be better for him to stay if he wants to stay on form somewhat. But outside of that, I can definitely see the reason for taking a split off if you think it's going to hurt your motivation.
Well, there's two things here. Right, I keep playing. I'm the best in this situation. I keep playing. I prove to everybody that I'm still one of the best mid laners in North America, and that come season 5, even though I'm not going to be on this Mighty Storm team, my name is out there, and I have you've seen what I can do. Or I decide not to choose them to join a Mighty Storm, take the split off to really refocus myself and just play the game for fun and not find that enjoyment in the game and not as a business or as a means to an end, and let season 5 come around where everybody's already I'm a free agent, everybody knows who I am, knows how good I am at this game, and I don't need any more evidence proving that I am the best. Like my name says, I am the best. And if there's if the team's needing a mid laner in season 5, I got to be one of the top choices, even as I choose not to play in the fall of season 4. Right?
Yeah. Go ahead.
We've seen him now for 4, 5 years, 5 seasons playing in the league, and we don't need any more evidence telling us how good the best is. He doesn't have to he doesn't need this split, so he doesn't have to realistically join a Mighty Storm just to play. Yeah, Walrus joined Flashpoint last split to keep playing in the league, but is the best willing to do that? Willing to put himself on a bad team just to keep playing? And I don't see why he would.
Yeah, like as I said, I think the reason why he would potentially is because he thinks he's gonna get a bit rusty if he doesn't. But if that's not the case, right, it makes sense. I agree with you, yeah. So yeah, something you already just hinted at was LG's new solo laner. Because this week as well, I think it's just a day ago or so, they announced that Aquarius would be joining them, obviously leaving Noble in the process. So yeah, what do we think about that?
Well, it's a great move for Aquarius. I'm saying that. Don't know how good of a move it is for LG. And I'm saying that because there's two different situations I see here. LG looking, just bringing in Aquarius, a young player with some talent who I've defended or who I've championed since we started recording the show and doing Tuesday Night Smite. I've been really high on this guy. LG bringing in a solo laner that we don't know if he's ready to compete at this level. We know he's ready to compete in solo or in the SPL. LG's looking to make it to Worlds, and they should be one of the top or one of the favorite teams to make it to Worlds out of NA. The Aquarius ready for that though, and that's the question I'm leaving with right now, because I do think Aquarius is improving his situation from going from Noble to LG. LG's a lot more stable than Noble is, and so going from a good team like Noble to an even better situation with LG is good for Aquarius. Don't know if he's ready to do what LG needs him to do to make it to Worlds. And so there's I understand the move for Aquarius. I don't understand the move for LG.
Yeah, it's a bit confusing, especially if you look at the fact that again Divios was available, also one of the best NA solos there is, and they decided to go with Aquarius over him, right? At least theoretically, if both were interested in even joining this team, which I think they should be. So the thing I'm wondering myself is basically the same thing that you are, just whether he is ready enough, and more specifically whether he is right now good enough for that. Because we saw him play in the summer. We were both having him as sort of the second place, the second best rookie of the split, right? Just because Final K obviously was there as well in the solo lane for Space Station, and I think he impressed us a bit more than Aquarius did necessarily. And overall, I'm just not sure why you're even going with Aquarius over Divios or even over Final K, who I think is still a free agent as well, now that I think about it. And that's what's curious to me, honestly. And what I'm a bit afraid of is that he's just not going to be good enough, especially if they make it to Worlds, to compete against the EU solo laners, because they are obviously quite a bit of a level above the NA solo laners right now from everything we've seen, looking back at DreamHack Valencia as well. So yeah, it's a bit questionable.
Well, I do like Aquarius. I've already said that I've been a champion of Aquarius since we started this. I've always believed Aquarius was better than Final K, because I think what we saw from them were about even, but Aquarius was doing it with lesser team. I mean, I think we both can say that Aquarius has not had the same talent around him that Final K did.
Yeah, there's a reason why Space Station got first seed in the summer. Second? Were they really behind Trifecta?
I think they were. I think Trifecta was first.
Really? I need to look this up.
I might be wrong.
No, Space Station was first, because I think they had the head-to-head against Trifecta. Yeah, they were both on 14 points anyway. So yeah, obviously the team overall was better, because you're comparing 14 points in the split to Noble's 10, and that kind of speaks volumes by itself, right?
And Aquarius was also on that Flashpoint team in the spring that was not very good. So he's improved his situation by going from Flashpoint to Noble, and he's improved his situation again from going from Noble to Luminosity. And I think the reason why they picked up Aquarius over Final K is that they feel that they have shown, or Aquarius has shown them a higher ceiling, right? I mean, Final K is a good player. Final K is a good solo laner. I'm not saying that he's not. Comparative to his situation compared to what Aquarius' situation was, we've seen about the same level of play from both of them. And with Aquarius doing that with lesser teammates, I think you can take a look at that and say he might have the higher ceiling than Final K. He might end up being a better player than Final K. And so you take that risk, that a lot like you did when you picked up Scary D, an unproven solo laner that has not been on a team of this talent, and you hope for the best. You hope he turns into an amazing solo laner. I see that from Aquarius. I see that coming from Aquarius. I don't know if he's there yet. And I do not think he's going to be there for the Worlds. I think he can be really good this split, and I think that LG can make super regionals and have a shot at Worlds with the Aquarius on the team. When they get to Worlds, though, and they're not guaranteed to get to Worlds, but when they get to Worlds, if they get to Worlds, you're right. Is Aquarius ready to compete with these EU solo laners?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, and like even if you do see him as a better option than Final K, which I think you've got a point for, but which I think is also a point worth making, that being on a team with worse players around you sometimes can allow you to look better than them and to look better overall than someone who's on a team of those types of all-stars that Final K had around him, right? Because obviously you're going to get more impressive individual performances out of the players you had at a Space Station roster, something like a Homie FA, something like an Andy, than you necessarily will out of the people on Noble's roster. Then again, there were a lot of people on Noble's roster that looked very good, right? We saw the Vowie pentakill to save the game at some point. We saw Stealth playing consistently well the entire split, but it's a bit easier. What?
Ataraxia chose Wubbin as his support for the Energy Invitational.
Yeah, but they lost miserably.
But he still saw Ataraxia still saw talent in Wubbin enough to pick him over Polar Bear Mike and Jigs.
Yeah, well, you okay? So looking at the Energy draft, yeah, that is a good sign for Wubbin. Looking at the actual Invitational, it's not. But yeah, Wubbin definitely has talent as well. I will agree with that. Yeah. But the point I'm trying to make is that it's a bit easier to stick out above your surroundings when you're on a team like Noble, rather than when you're on a team like Space Station. I think, and based on that, you can look better while not being better necessarily. And yeah, the other point I was gonna make, which I forgot now. So yeah, I'll remember it. Please say something, Sabo.
What do you want me to say? I'm supposed to help you remember something?
No, just respond to my point. I'll remember it while you do that.
I mean, Aquarius, yes, like I said, he's improving his situation from Noble to LG, and much more than what I think Final K would have improved his situation from going to Space Station to LG. But it's yes, the Space Station team was better than that Noble roster, but Noble still had a run last split where they went 7 for 8 and they almost made it to DreamHack. just based on the run, and but they didn't. Like, right? Like, we haven't seen Aquarius at that international level. And if this is a pickup in the fall of season 5, if when Aquarius is established and is shown himself to be one of the better solo laners that you could pick up at the time, then yes, this is a great pickup. A year from now, This is a great pickup. If Aquarius turns out to be the player that we expect him to be, this is a great pickup a year from now. We don't know if he's going to be that player, though. We think he is. We like what we've seen from him so far. LG is looking to make it to Worlds and to compete at Worlds. Question mark is, Aquarius, is he ready? I don't know if he's ready.
Yeah, and I think that's the big question, right? Is whether he is overall just going to be good enough to be on a roster like LG. I think when they picked up Scary last year at around the same time, right? I think it was a bit of a shot in the dark, and it obviously paid off because Scary looked great at Worlds and looked great in the spring. So from that point of view, it might be just a repetition of that with Aquarius now, but I don't think that's guaranteed, and I don't think LG picking up Scary at basically the right moment was necessarily due to them just seeing something in him, and more due to a bit of blind luck as well. And I'm not sure if they're going to have the same luck with Aquarius, even though he has looked good this split as a rookie, right? And the other big thing is just that we've been talking about him compared to Final K, right? And the name I want to bring back into the hat is just Divios, because he was left out of this, and we left him out in the last couple of minutes when we were discussing this change. Why not go with Divios, right? You can easily argue that Aquarius is better than Final K. Can you realistically argue that he is better than Divios?
No, not at the current evidence of play that we have. But we go back to the Venenu joining E United thing, and how it could be based on personality alone. Divios has been known to have a somewhat outsider's personality, or somebody who's not easily able to get, a lot of people are able to get along with. He had that, he was removed from Team Solo Mid because of his clashes in personality with people like Eonic and Snoopy, and that's why he didn't join the Trifecta team this recent off season. And so, does the synergy that all the other 4 members of LG have, does Divios fit with that, and do they want to bring in a risk like Divios that might end up hurting them the same way the best might have ended up hurting a United if their personalities don't fit?
Well, see, the way I look at LG is that they have they seem to have some core issues with how their team works, right? They have not looked good against EU at all, and I think you need to look more towards EU, and I do not see what Aquarius is going to do differently for them to beat EU, and I could definitely see what Divios could potentially do differently for them to be able to do that. So if any team is going to take a risk right now, I think it should be LG, just because they have struggled basically all season long, especially against Europe, of course. And I think a change to the system overall is a bit in order for this team, and I don't think Aquarius is going to cause as much of a change with that as Divios would have.
I agree. I I feel like if it was going to be Divios, we would have heard it a lot sooner. Like, right? I mean, if you're going to bring in somebody like Divios, and he's clearly the best player or the best solo laner you can pick up in free agency, why not announce it sooner? I think they brought in Divios for a tryout. They talked to some other people around the league. We know Barra and Snoopy are really good friends. Maybe maybe there just was something there that caused issues with Divios beyond what we know of. And you're right, LG probably does need to take a risk to try to improve, but this Aquarius is a risk, right? I mean, he's good, yes, and we're high on him, but to bring him in now when you're looking to make a run for Worlds, that's risky. Or you're taking which is the bigger risk? Is bringing Aquarius in or bringing Divios in the bigger risk? And which risk are you comfortable with taking?
See, I think there are different types of risk, because with bringing Aquarius in, you risk just not having a solo laner that's going to be good enough for the international stage, and when you look at how likely that is to change, I think it's pretty unlikely, because we've only got one split left. Obviously, it was his rookie split, the last one, and he looked decent, good even, but I do not see an improvement curve that's steadily or that steep coming out of him, honestly, going towards the World Championship. And I think with Divios you run an entirely different risk, where, as we said, where he can destroy your team's synergy and just destroy the team sort of that way. But I think with him you don't run the risk of not having a solo laner that's going to be good enough internationally. And I would personally just value that above necessarily your own team synergy or a guaranteed team synergy, because I think it's more likely that you can play around these synergetic issues that you could have with Divios, or that they just don't appear as strongly as you're expecting, than that Aquarius actually steps up massively enough to compete with the EU solo laners. Yeah, but both moves are obviously risky, so I'm just wondering if it's gonna work out.
Well, I think a influx of fresh talent was needed for NA to compete on EU's level, because we have seen EU get a fresh boost of talent from their other sources. Their Challenger Cup or Challenger circuits, their ranked plays, no numbers, Ducky, all fresh new faces that made the league as a whole better. So maybe Venenu and Aquarius being put on top teams can help N8 get better.
Yeah, maybe. I just think it's more of a gamble than trying to build a super team out of the players that you do have and that you know are amazing.
Well, super teams, like I said, we've already said super teams don't always work.
Yeah, but I think it's your best shot, right? Because these new players, they're gonna need time to develop themselves, and they're just not gonna have that time because this is the last split of the year. Like I think the summer and the spring split, those are the splits where you try to bring in new forces, and when you try to experiment and try to discover new talent that's going to give you an edge within your region and internationally. I don't think the fall has that same kind of purpose, because in the fall, as I said, you should already have a roster together, either that you know is going to work or that has worked to a certain extent, and you think has more potential than what you've unlocked yet, like it is the case with most of the EU rosters, I'd say. Or you put together the best pieces that you can find and try to make it work, because that is the one way that you're going to catch up to a region that is just superior to you right now.
Well, I agree with that. I mean, I agree. Fall is not the time to experiment. Fall is time to get ready for Worlds and making that run and trying to become world champions. But this is not like any other fall we've had before. Within the major changes announced with Season 5, I think a lot of teams are basing their moves and their decisions on next season and not just this season.
So what you're saying is, NA has given up on Worlds?
I think NA has a bigger picture in mind.
Yeah, again, I just don't get why you're looking forward to Season 5 already. Please. NA's triggering me as a region right now. But yeah.
Well, it's massive. We are massive changes are on the future or on the horizon. We see that we've already got a glimpse of the changes coming in Season 5, and so having an eye towards, having the macro view instead of the micro right now view, it could benefit these teams in NA because they're starting earlier than what EU seems to be starting. They're looking to the future earlier than what EU is. And maybe EU does end up winning Worlds this year, but what happens next year? NA has already looked towards the future, and NA could be dominant, just as dominant that next year as EU was this year, because they looked forward sooner.
Yeah, well, I just think that if EU has issues going into the next season, they're gonna fix them either like directly in the spring or going into the summer. And in that case, they're gonna catch up again, because they're gonna have 2 full splits with those rosters that are new and that should be working better, right? And that is why I don't think it's an advantage that you have like 1 split more when you're already looking at 4 splits or 3 splits going over an entire season, and the fall split obviously for NA, because I think 2 splits or 3 splits are more than enough to build good teams, because EU has done it, right? There have been changes to EU. We saw Dignitas come together at the start of the spring, and they're the best EU team right now. We saw Obey recently bring back Salia. We saw Energy getting Maniac instead of Dimmy. They're not afraid necessarily to make changes. They have a basis set up that actually works, which I don't think NA necessarily does. And I think NA needs a big sort of roster scramble if they're gonna get anything done.
We go through a roster scramble at the end of every split. I don't know what you're talking about. We get wholesale roster changes in NA basically after the split ends. After each split ends, there's like 10 or 15 changes to every roster.
Yeah, but I don't think the changes are productive, right? I think the people are bringing in players that they like instead of players that are good, or that just. I think NA needs a Dignitas. Like, honestly, I think NA needs a roster where you throw together a bunch of players that are some of the best in their role, and you hope it works, and it's gonna fucking work. And if it doesn't, you just try anew. You you see what worked in that team. You switch players and hope it works.
Again, there's two a magnet has two opposite polar sides, right? You got the positive side and you got the negative side. Positive side is Team Dignitas, this current Team Dignitas. The negative side is Spring Split envious of Season 3.
Yeah, but
super teams are hit and miss. They're not guaranteed.
Yeah, the thing I think is super teams are the one way you are going to win tournaments. Because look at who's won the last couple of tournaments. You had Energy winning Worlds. Energy at the time had some of the best players in their roles, like across the board, right?
So what you're saying to me is you hate Cinderella. You don't like the fairy tale Cinderella.
No, I do. I just don't think it's going to work for NA right now.
Don't like the Cinderella stories. The team that nobody expects to win. No, the team that is the ugliest or has two older, uglier stepsisters that have been given everything, and still being able to find the prize at the ultimate prize. In Cinderella's case, the prince. In a Cinderella team's case, a championship. So you don't like Cinderella. You want super teams. You want Michael Jordan and Larry Bird and all the good professional basketball players on a team.
Yeah, because I think that's the team that's going to win Worlds. That is what matters to me, right? I'm not saying that I hate Cinderella stories. I think Cinderella stories are great. I just don't think they're going to happen going into Worlds, and I don't think they're even going to happen going into Season 5. The teams that have won the last 3 tournaments, NRG, Obey, and Dig, are super teams. NRG at Worlds had best players in their role, in their region, basically across the board. Obey in the spring had a similar thing, right? You had Prime, who was the best mid. You had Adoraxio, who was easily competing for best ADC, and you had Maniac, who came back and looked like a great solo, and you had Twig in the jungle, who looked like one of the best junglers in EU. Then you look at Dig right now. They have variety. They have Pure Fred, right?
And I'm going to stop you there. Super teams work. Super teams don't work. It's a hit or miss.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. The thing is,
then you get a team that sticks together through bad times, through all the crap that they catch, playing at the lower end of the league, and they get better and better over time. Rival took the best team, your super team, to 5 games. And where did they start out? Where did Rival start out? Let me ask you that.
Yeah, I get that. You can grow into a super team naturally, right? NRG did that. They're the best example. Rival is a good example. But NA is not doing that either. NA is making weird roster changes where they're getting players that based on synergy or a feeling of synergy.
I agree.
And the thing is, I think if you're making roster changes, and if you're NA and you're making roster changes, or there's 2 ways NA can go about creating a great team. One is you put together a super team, you do it over and over again until you have one that works, because that's what EU has done, right? EU has put together super teams that have worked. Dig is the one great example of that. Or you stick with a team that you think has potential. You do absolutely not make roster changes, and you grow as a team. You can do a Dig or you can do an Energy. NA is not doing any of those.
And that second situation you said, where you stick to team and you don't make any roster change, I think that's where NA has failed. Because I have liked some of the rosters that NA has put together or split. It's that they don't do the thing is they don't do what they want to for that one split, and then they break apart.
Yeah,
I have really liked some of these rosters that NA has put together, but they're not giving themselves enough time as a team, and I think that is where we see the difference right now. If you're not going to build a super team and you're going to play putting parts together and hoping that it works, you need to do something like Rival and give it longer than a split. Give it a year. Try to see if it works in the long run instead of just the short term. Hey, we didn't make this land, so we have to make roster changes.
yeah, I get what you're saying. The issue is, right, and hear me out. The issue is we are one split away from Worlds. If you wanted to grow as a team, you should have started in the spring. You should have built a team in the spring, not made any roster changes now going into Worlds, and you might look like one of the best NA teams. Right now, we are one split away from Worlds. Right now, there's only one way you can put together a team that is gonna compete at Worlds against EU, and that is by putting together a super team and hoping it works.
And the two teams that we're talking about, E United and LG, these are roster changes that didn't have to make in the spring or the summer. God damn it, I forgot his name. Chaos was on this team. They until he got the job at Hi-Rez, E United didn't need a mid laner. And until Scary D got poached away by Space Station Gaming, LG didn't need a solo laner. These were not roster changes that they had to make in the spring or in the summer.
Well,
these
LG
are
did.
changes that they have to make now.
Yeah, and it's just fucked EU completely, basically, because but right there they've got this card that they've been dealt, this hand that they've been dealt, and they're not doing what I think they should do. I think they should try to make the best of it out of the shitty situation of Chaos leaving United and having them be forced to reform this team essentially, and Scary D leaving the LG roster and having them forced to bring in a new player. I think in that situation, what you do is not that you bring in these type of underwhelming players. You bring in someone who is going to make you a superstar team, and if it doesn't work, well, shit, you find a new place going into Season 5. If it does work, well, you might actually have a chance at Worlds. And obviously Eager is another roster that basically screwed themselves because by the fact that Pern left.
Well, see, I agree with you almost wholeheartedly. But then I bring up the fact that NA is looking ahead and EU's kind of looking right now. Proof of this is Obey picking up Zelia over somebody like No Numbers or Ducky or somebody else. We know Zelia's ceiling. We know where he's going, what he's going to be. We know he's not going to get any better than what we've seen from him. Why bring him in if you're thinking for the long term? If you're looking past Worlds and trying to compete, not for just for this Worlds, but for next season and the season beyond that. If Zelia ends up staying on this roster, is he really going to end up being better than some of the other solo laners I named, like Ducky or No Numbers or even Sibby, or what else who's the other guy's name?
Creed, yeah. Does he have a better long-term talent? Is he better long-term than any of those other four I just named? Or is he something that is best for you right now? Well, he's best for you right now, right? He was arguably the best free agent available at the time, and I think I still agree with that move, right? Because you bring in the best option right now because you're looking at Worlds. If you fail at Worlds, or if you fail to even get to Worlds, that is the time when you make roster changes. You make roster changes going into the spring. And That's what that's what the EU teams that don't work out are most likely going to do, right?
And again, I say the teams, the two regions are taking two different views on this. All these roster changes, even the one we haven't discussed yet, I see as roster changes that are looking not just for season 4 Worlds, but into season 5 as well. I think the macro view that Kanga has is pretty much evident in the move that they've made.
Yeah, but I think that's shit. Like, honestly, for the reason I've already said.
It might be shit for right now, but who says it doesn't pay off next season?
Like, let's say that that Obey falls apart because they don't make worlds, or that Energy falls apart because they don't make worlds.
Okay, wait. Before you get to that, I got a better situation for you. I got a better question for you. Say Divios moves to Italy or moves to Europe or wherever, France, wherever he wants to move to, and he becomes a free agent in EU. Does Obey pick up him or Zelia?
Probably. They would certainly try with Divios. They would do tryouts with him. And if he's better, and if he works with the team better, I think they would take him.
Right there. You just said it. If he works with the team better.
Yeah, the thing is, Obey, compared to NA teams, has a much better foundation. I mean, they 2-0'd LG at DreamHack Valencia.
But still has to work with the team better. Your words. Your words.
Yeah, because they have a functioning foundation. Obey does. Right? A team that has already worked internationally. You do not need to make as sweeping changes as NA needs to if you want to compete internationally, if you're Obey. Because you're already competing internationally. That's just what I think. Like, it's even a different situation because you've probably almost never played with Divios before if you're Obey. You have no experience how he really works in a team, how he communicates, all that kind of stuff, right? Because you've met him so few times in your own games. If you're an EU player in the SPL at an SPL level, you're getting into Grandmasters matches with other potential players that you could pick up for your team. And at that point in time, you already get some more experience with how they play as compared to Divios. So you're going to be looking at those. Those are still a bit less risky than Divios would be, right?
Still has to fit with the team.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But I think it's as I said, they have a better foundation.
and United and LG are trying to build a foundation.
Yeah, but it's late.
Why bring in somebody that could potentially destroy that foundation? I'm not saying that they would, I'm saying the best or Divios will. But giving the personalities on EU United and given Divios' reputation, why take that risk? For Worlds, for one split?
As I said, because I think it's either too early if you're looking at Season 5 and Season 5 Worlds, or it is too late if you're looking at Season 4 Worlds. If you're trying to build a foundation now, you're already too late. You're not going to get the house done by the time you need it done. That's a bad comparison, honestly.
Right. You're right. If it's too late for Season 4, it's too late to build a foundation for Season 4. It's too early to start building a foundation for season 5? Or which situation would you rather be in?
I would rather say, screw the foundation. We're just trying to build 4 walls separately and the roof separately and hoping it fits.
That's not the question. Which would you rather be in a bad situation for season 4, or get an early start on a good situation for season 5?
Again, I don't think they're
Answer
necessarily.
Answer the damn question. Stop skating around the question. Answer
No,
the
because
damn
you're trying to shoehorn me into 2 options that are not the only 2 options that I both don't like. Like, obviously, if your only 2 options are to try and build a foundation, you're gonna build it for season 5 because you're not gonna get it done for season 4 Worlds. But
Exactly.
But
You're already too late for 4, so why not get a jump on season 5?
But
And we're speaking hypothetically. We're speaking hypothetically.
But again, look at Dignitas, a team that got together at the start of spring and got 2nd place at the first LAN they ever went to. A team like this can be built using EU's players, NA's players, sorry. A team like this should be built right now because it is your only chance. Right now, you do not have time to build a foundation. You need to build 4 walls separately and a roof separately, stick it all together and hope it functions as a house.
And it's a lot easier to do what Dignitas did in the spring.
Yes.
Than it is to wait till the fall.
Yes. NA has fucked themselves.
And it's not just about going into the fall. It's the situation at the end of the Worlds where a lot of these players are looking for new teams or free agents or teams. A lot of the players right now that are on the rosters for the fall split they weren't looking for a new team. They're looking to get better with their team. So starting a team right now with the ideas and hopes of becoming a NA's Dignitas, not realistic.
It's, as I said, I think it's your only choice. I think what NA is doing right now is conceding Worlds unless a miracle happens. And I think it's less miraculous to expect a super team to work than it is to expect Aquarius to become the next Benji within a single split.
Wow, Benji became the next Benji in a single split.
Yeah, but it happens once every 2 years at least, at most.
So what we're both agreeing, and we're arguing about something we agree on. NA is exactly what Jon Snow and Daenerys Targaryen was in this last episode of Game of Thrones.
Hey, don't spoil. No, do spoil.
Fucked. They're fucked.
Yeah.
In the words of Tyrion Lannister, we're fucked.
Yeah.
What we're saying.
Okay, let's just move on from this situation. Move on to, obviously, the team that needed a solo laner after the news broke that Aquarius was leaving them. Noble. And they're going to be bringing in Walrus. So, are they fucked as well, or how do they look?
I like this Noble team. I bought the Noble package. I have the Noble Ward. I use the Zeus skin. I like the Noble roster. Even with this recent change of bringing back Walrus in just replacing Aquarius, I think it's a good fit if they want to continue to compete in season 4. We've both said in the past on past episodes that we think Noble is going to be a good team in the fall. And I think bringing Walrus back in to replace Aquarius this time is more of a stabler situation than what a lot of people probably expect it to be. Because really, the Wowie and Wubbin already have synergy with Walrus. They've played together before. Stealth doesn't really have synergy with him, but they can develop that synergy in short time because mid laners and solo laners don't really have a lot to do with each other in the early parts of the game. It's the late game where they kind of have to work together. It's Skeledon that's going to have the biggest change here, right? Because he's the one that's working with Walrus almost exclusively for Walrus, all through, throughout the entire match. And so that synergy, if that synergy between Walrus and Skeledon can fit good, and Walrus is not going through the motions like he did on relegations, during relegations where he just looked like he was playing the game to play the game and not to actually try to win. If we get a Walrus that wants to play the game and that synergy with Skeledon actually takes off, I still think Noble is a top 3 team. It's all about that synergy that Walrus and Skeledon are able to build in such a short time.
Yeah, I think that's the big question I have is how the synergy is gonna look. Because what made this team good in the summer was that they ramped up in synergy as the split went on. Right, we saw them go win 7 of the last 8 games they played, I think you said.
Yeah.
And obviously they had a terrible start to the split, and they ended it well, a lot better than I was expecting. You were already high on them at that point already. So yeah, the thing that worries me is synergy, because we've seen them have success by building synergy, and I'm not sure if that's going to repeat itself with this Walrus change, just because every team is a bit different in terms of synergy, right? And Walrus is not by any means this superstar that they're bringing in, right? He is just a solid solo laner, in my opinion. He has shown at time that he can be better than Aquarius. And we've seen very little of Aquarius, obviously. But Walrus has at times been better than him. If he gets back to the level and they have proper synergy, this Noble roster can look better than what they did in the summer, even. But there's just a lot of question marks around that, whether it's actually going to be happening, right? There's a lot of ifs involved. And whenever there's a lot of ifs involved, it just shows you that it's a bit of a risky move. And they were obviously forced to make this move, right? Because Aquarius wanted to go to LG. Like, you can't say that's a bad decision on his part, because LG is probably the better roster out of those two. So the move out of his perspective makes sense, and Noble are sort of forced to just pick up the pieces from where he left. And Walrus is one option. Again, another would have been Divios. So I don't think it's a terrible move. I just think it's still a bit underwhelming when you consider the other option, Divios.
I think you're right. Divios would have been the better option, but we've discussed this already. Divios doesn't have maybe the best personality around the league, and it's a lot harder to play with him than it is with a lot of the others.
But
plus, we've already said, Wowie and Wubbin already have experience playing with Walrus, and so they know what kind of attitude that they're getting from Walrus. And I think we both agree that it all just comes down to synergy, because this roster should be good enough to make it to super regionals fairly easily if they continue to play what they did if they continue to play how they did at the end of the summer. That Walrus replacing Aquarius shouldn't be that big of a factor if the team continues to play like they did. But it's synergy based on how well that they're going to finish, right? I mean, if Walrus and Skeledon again can find synergy quickly, this team can be really good the entire split. If it takes them a while and they do end up in the gauntlet, I still think this team has a good shot of coming out of the gauntlet.
Yeah, I think they should more be looking towards the gauntlet than anything else, because as I said, I think they're going to have to build synergy again, and with that in mind, I think it's going to be rough for them to make top 4. But within the gauntlet, they're going to have a shot at making it to super regionals, right? Because that is the point in time in which they should have their synergy working to a reasonable level, and at which they should be able to find some success at least. I just don't think it's guaranteed that they make top 4 at all.
You're right. It's not guaranteed.
And also, something I want to say real quick. I don't think a team with stealth on it necessarily cares too much about not creating the type of environment that a stealth and the Divios create, right? Because they're both sort of these passive aggressive guys, and that can ruin a team environment as well. But since they're both that, I don't necessarily think that the rest of Noble really has a problem with that.
The two different situations, though. I think Stealth realized that his attitude was causing him not to be highly sought after, and that he needed a team where he could restart his career and adjust his attitude to better fit a team or an environment that a lot of the teams want to create. It was a very I hate to use this analogy, but it was a come to Jesus moment. Like, you had to change or you had to leave. I think that was the situation, Stealth, and I think Stealth realized that he had to change or he had to get out of the league. And I don't know if Divios is there at right now.
Well, I don't know if Stealth has changed, right? Why do you think he has?
Just from what we've heard from F. Dot and Hindu Man and the other players around the league about this entire situation of Stealth when Stealth first joined Noble, I think it's pretty safe bet to say that having information coming from somebody closer to the league than we are seems to support this theory that Stealth had to change his attitude, or he had to leave.
Yeah, I think those are the two options, right? You either find a team that's going to put up with your attitude, even if it's not optimal, or you're going to somehow change it. And I think both could have worked for Stealth. If he did the second, it's obviously better, because it's making him a lot more attractive for the other teams that are still in the SPL and a bit higher placed overall than Noble. So yeah, if they've said it, then there's obviously reason for us to believe it.
And I want to go back to Walrus real quick. I think Walrus is pretty much the same as Benji, but Benji has a higher talent level. Like, they're both good players. Benji's probably far better than Walrus, but they both have these games where they don't bring it, where they're not invested in the game. We saw that with Walrus at relegations, where all the rest of AI rotated in to take a fight, and Walrus was just in his lane, farming his lane, despite not having the enemy solo laner there. and the enemy solo laner being in the team fight. Like, we've seen that attitude from Walrus. Like, if he's not on a team that he thinks can win or do anything, that he's just going to do his own thing and not play for the team. We've seen that from Benji as well. And we've also seen them both have really good games. So it's just a question of which Walrus does this Noble team get, and does that they find the synergy early enough to make it work.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, you hit the nail on the head right there. It's gonna depend on the synergy. If Walrus if feels himself welcome in this team and thinks they have potential to go somewhere, then I think he's gonna bring out his A game, and it could just elevate Noble's level as a whole. But right now it's just not certain that that's gonna happen. So yeah, we're gonna have to wait and see, really. Is there anything else you wanna discuss about this roster change or any of the roster changes?
No, I think we've pretty much covered all of it. We had a very interesting argument there that was pretty funny.
Yeah. So yeah, we've got two other small topics that we want to quickly go over. One is another thing that was announced this week, I think on the 24th of August. Let me just quickly check. Yeah, August 24, 2017. It was announced that the OCE player Galen has been permanently banned for breaking a rule of sort of the Smite Esports contract thingy. Let me check real quick. I don't want to say anything that's wrong. Yeah, part of the competition rules, section 5.1b, point 7 there, basically. And he has been banned for toxic and abusive behavior in public and private messages targeting members of the Smite Oceania community. That's how it is written in their official ruling. So yeah, that's that. Do you know who that is, Galen?
I've watched a few Oceania matches. I'm not 100% sure of who Galen is, but I've seen a couple of matches, especially last fall when they were doing their regionals and seeing who was going to go to Worlds. I don't think Galen was a part of that, or one of the two teams that was in the finals there last season. But I do know, I have seen Kanga Esports or Kanga Gaming, whatever the team's called. I've seen them play. I just don't know if I've seen Galen play, and so I'm not 100% sure if I've seen him play before. But yeah, you can't be toxic, and you can't be like. We were joking before we started the recording that if you're going to ban somebody for being toxic, you might as well ban the entire internet. But this being a professional OCE player, I think draws out a little bit more attention than what normally people would get.
Yeah, I think it's probably a good move depending on what evidence they have and what he actually did, right? Because if it's if those are like drastic violations of the rules that he has committed, which is what it sounds like, then just slapping a permanent ban on it is a very good deterrent for other people who might be prone to similar types of outbursts. So yeah, I think it sends a good sign in general, and I don't know what he's done, so I'm not sure if I would fully agree with the ruling if I did.
Well, it has to be something major, right? Because we saw was Bashu or Sashu get banned for basically being toxic in chat last year, and it was only a 1-year ban.
Yeah, that is
And
the
this,
thing, right? Either it has been a reported suspension, and I think it would have been, I think, the fifth to result in a permanent ban overall for the player, or it has to have been something really severe. Otherwise, it would not result in an instant permanent ban from all high-res titles.
wonder
So
if
yeah.
this is just competitively, or if he cannot even log into Smite anymore. If his IP address has been banned.
Well, I'm not sure if they actually do IP bans. So yeah. Well, I wouldn't know because I've never been banned. Have you been banned, Sabo?
I have not.
See, we're the good guys.
Oh, I hate my teammates, but I don't ever talk to them in in the lobby afterwards.
Yeah, it just
There's an
once.
there's an X button at the top of my screen. I just exit out and not play Smite again for a few hours.
Yeah, that's one way to do that. Yeah. I usually just don't say anything. I just curse at my wall to my left when I'm angry at a teammate.
Oh, I'll say something and curse, but I won't put it in. I won't write it down in chat
Yeah, yeah.
lobby.
That is
Yell
the
at
main point.
I'll yell at the TV saying "Screw you, f mother effers, God f mother f." But then I'm not typing that in chat. I'm just going
Yeah,
hitting that X button, walking away.
yeah.
So
No one cares what you curse within your own four walls. As long as you're not sharing it with anyone, you'll be fine. So just do that instead. Or get a pillow and just shout into it whenever you're angry. That works as well, I've heard. Anyway, he's been banned. Might be a great loss for the OC scene, might be not, and might not be. We honestly don't know. I think Kanga was a bottom tier team in OC, so it probably isn't a great loss.
I know. I think the top two teams in OCE for the summer split was the LG Direwolves, who recently left, and then Legacy Esports, and I don't think any of the other teams are all that good. So
Yeah, you could argue that not even Legacy and Direwolves are all that good.
they were good for their region, but not for
Yeah.
not for.
Like if you were being harsh, but we're never harsh. So yeah.
Yeah, we're never harsh. Don't tell that to the Flashpoint, though. Oh God,
Yeah.
we brought Flashpoint.
Oh no, we promised not to talk about them again. Damn it, Sabo.
Let's stop talking about them and ignore that I said anything. Maybe nobody will notice.
It's never happened. So yeah,
What
Connor's Cure. So Smite's having a Connor's Cure event. It's concerning the Terra skin, right? That has come out. This patch, actually. That just went live a couple of hours ago.
The bundle it came out today. The event starts after they remove the fall or the summer of Smite event.
Yeah, okay. So I think you know a lot more about it than I do. I've just read up on it a little bit. So go ahead and explain to us what it is all about, the event and Connor's Cure in general.
Well, the Connor's Cure Foundation is a foundation that is dedicated to finding a cure for children's cancer. Connor, I'm not sure of his last name or what kind of cancer he died of, but when he died, he was a huge wrestling fan, and the WWE, which I grew up as a wrestling fan, I followed wrestling for the most of my life, and so Connor was something that really kind of hit the nail on the head. He was known in the WWE World Wrestling Entertainment as Connor the Crusher, and he was just a sweet little boy, 6 or 7 years old. Not quite sure what his age was, but he touched a lot of people in the WWE, and they started a foundation dedicated to finding a cure for children's cancer, all children's cancer. and that they are also in partnership with the Jimmy Fee Foundation, which is dedicated to finding a cure for all cancer, regardless of whether you're a child or adult or an elderly person. And so it's a good cause that I think everybody can get behind. Cancer is something that has to be. We have to find a cure for cancer, and I think it's just a great cause, and just to see Hi-Rez partnering with the WWE to sponsor this event in game, and what I would imagine WWE will cover it on some of their shows as well. It's a good thing for both sides. Player base gets introduced to trying to find a cure for cancer. The WWE fan base, which is lovingly called the WWE Universe, gets a look at Smite and other Hi-Rez products, which is only going to help the game, right? I mean, so it's a good event. I like it a lot. Of course, I've been a wrestling fan for the longest part of my life, and it's just a cause that everybody in the world can get behind. Finding a cure for cancer is so important to a lot of people out there, whether you know somebody personally who's been touched by cancer, whether it's a friend or a family member, a loved one, whatever it is. Just to have something that shows that we're making an effort, and to have a game that you and I both love do something to do, to help the situation, and it's a good thing, and I wanted to take some time to cover it today.
Yeah, I think that was definitely worth it. Well, as you said, well, I myself, I don't have a lot of experience with wrestling. Didn't grow up watching it or anything, and it is definitely something that I can still support, right? Because it's obviously for a good cause. It helps everyone involved. As you said, it helps Hi-Rez, it helps the WWE, and it obviously also helps cancer research, which is probably the biggest point we need to hit. So there's really nothing negative about this entire thing. So if you do like Tara, if you do like her skin that she gets in this bundle, or the other contents involved in it, then, or if you just want to help fight cancer to some extent, then please buy this bundle, because it is something for you. And I think if you're mildly interested in it, you should get it, just because there's this additional good cause attached to it that's going to make it extra worth it.
I mean, Hi-Rez has been a good company as far as donations to foundations like cancer research. There's children's hospitals that they do their Christmas events for, or there's a Skin basically created for stuff, having to deal with their many, what's the word? I'm
not sure.
There's a word for it. Gosh, I can't remember it either, but their causes. There's a lot of
charity
things Hi-Rez does. Charity causes. Hi-Rez supports a lot of charities, and to have a event that goes directly to cancer research is just a big thing, and a right. Even if you don't watch wrestling or you don't know who Connor is, cancer has use. Yeah.
And I think that's something that, as you said, we can give Hi-Rez a lot of credit for in general, for how they've done donations for, I think, the Red Cross, the American Red Cross, in the past through skins and such. how they've obviously done the Spring Fling a couple of times. One time directly for Allied, other times just for cancer research or other research, other charities in general. They have, what else have they done? One time when there was an earthquake in Nepal, I think.
Yeah, they had to.
Yeah, where there also was a chest that you could buy to donate money to charity through that, and still get something in return, right? And I think it's always good if you do that kind of stuff, because it's obviously gonna affect Hi-Rez's bottom line a bit, and if they're willing to sacrifice that in order to work for a good cause, then that is just overall a great thing. And yeah, I think our community, especially having lost a person to cancer ourselves, right, to a certain extent with Allied, is definitely one that is willing to give money to this type of research. So yeah.
Yeah, and I believe they also had a in-game event where they donated money to victims of the terrorist attack in Paris a couple years ago.
Yeah, might have been. I don't remember everything, but yeah.
The bottom line is Hi-Rez does a lot of good things for charitable reasons, and it's for all the slack we give them about screwing up the Pro League and all that stuff. The esports section of Hi-Rez is just one part of it. There's a lot more to it, and just have a company that sponsors a game that we love, that cares so much about bettering the world, is a great thing. It's something that I'm personally very proud of.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Is there anything else you have left to say about this topic?
Just go out and buy the bundle. Every dollar you spend, every bundle you buy, they donate $1 to cancer research. And I don't know how much the event is going to cost, but I'm certainly going to fork over the money, because I get cool skins, and I'm donating to a good cause when I get cool stuff. And just whatever your reason is for buying the bundle or taking part in the event, know that it's going for a good cause.
Yeah, I think that's really all for today in that case, unless you have any shout-outs you want to give before we end the show.
No, sir.
Yeah, all right then. On this a bit more somber note, I guess, but also an optimistic note, I guess. We're ending the show this week, the Design Smite podcast. If you liked this episode of the podcast, then you can leave us a like on whatever your platform you were watching it on, YouTube, SoundCloud, whatever. You can subscribe to us on any of the platforms you were watching it on in order to be notified when new episodes come out, if you're interested in those. Yeah. And yeah, you can follow us on Twitter as well if you want to be notified of any updates that we post during the week. It's probably not going to be much, honestly, going on to next week, but it's definitely worth just staying tuned to that as well. Well, next week what we're going to do is obviously a preview for the fall split that is going to start on the 9th of September, I think. Is that right?
Yeah, it's not this weekend, but next weekend, which I do think is the 9th and 10th of summer, or September. 9th and 10th of summer. Yeah, that's a month.
Yeah. That's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be doing a preview for the fall split, going right into it, obviously. Also, obviously, the last roster change that's inevitably going to be happening with a Mighty Storm's mid lane, or any additional roster changes that are going to happen are going to be covered as well. And yeah, lastly, thanks everyone for joining us this week. If you were watching to us talk for this almost 2 hours now, Thank for being here, and thank you, Sabo, for also being here. And yeah, with that in mind, good night. That was terrible. Good night. Good Smite.